Hi, I'm Nicole Portley with Pacific Environment, and it's my pleasure to be interviewing today Paul Connett, author of The Zero Waste Solution for the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. Hi, Paul.
Hi, Nicole. Great to talk to you. First time I've ever done this on Zoom with a PowerPoint presentation, so all hell could break loose.
This is the COVID era. We are all adapting.
Okay.
So for our first question, today's webcast is focusing on citizen action for climate change, as this 50th anniversary of Earth Day is themed climate. And other speakers are talking about diet choices, energy choices, community-based development, so different approaches and perspectives to climate change. Some people would be surprised to see waste among the topics. What does waste have to do with the climate?
Well, I think it's absolutely central. In fact, I think it's the biggest connection to the ordinary citizen and climate change. And I'm going to use these slides now to illustrate what I'm talking about. I think everybody agrees that we have to move from a linear economy to a circular economy. So if we look at what the circular economy is, you should have on the screen the linear economy. It starts with the extraction of raw materials, transporting them around the world, manufacturing products, consumption of those products, some would say over consumption of those products, and then in a relatively short time, those products thrown away and we have waste. If we look at the global impacts of this linear economy, you see where climate change comes in, because you need an enormous amount of energy to extract those raw materials, more energy in transporting those materials around the world, and more energy in manufacture, more energy in transport, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And all that energy use is fossil fuels, and that's producing carbon dioxide, and that, of course, produces global warming. So if we can cut back on waste, we can cut back on global warming. Or rather, if we can convert this linear economy to a circular economy, then we can cut back hugely on not just global warming, but all the other global impacts of this linear economy. Deforestation, elimination of species, plastics in the ocean, solid waste, air pollution, you name it. Everything is reduced if we can get off this linear economy. And so for zero waste, where does zero waste come in? Well, zero waste is a combination of community responsibility. And I think most people are familiar with the 3 R's and the C: reduce, reuse, recycle, and compost. But when people feel that zero waste cannot do it, it's pie in the sky, they are forgetting other responsibilities. We don't just need community responsibility, we need academic and industrial responsibility. And let me explain what that is in one sentence. The sentence is from the community to industry, which says if we can't reuse it, if we can't recycle it or compost it, then industry shouldn't be making it. We need better industrial design for the 21st century. So some people have said that zero waste is a design problem. Waste is a design problem. We have to design waste out of the system. So the difference between zero waste and what we are familiar with the 3 R's, recycling, is that we are bringing in other responsibilities, particularly industrial responsibility and also academic responsibility. So now we have 4 R's. We have reduce, reuse, recycle, yes, but now we have the 4th R, redesign.
So with this concept of zero waste, should one take it literally? Does it mean no waste at all? Because these 4 R's have entirely eliminated waste? Some might think that's impossible.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between a goal and an immediate reality. It's a difference between a mindset. Are we prepared? How much, some zero wasters like to say, well, if you're not for zero waste, how much waste are you for? So this notion that we should absolutely minimize waste as much as we can, and particularly in the design process. We should be designing for reuse, designing for recycling and composting. And that's where we can get remarkable figures. And in all this discussion, and we'll come to it at the end, I think, of this interview, incineration or gasification, any of these technologies which involve destroying materials is the enemy. It's the enemy of moving towards the circular economy. It's the enemy of sustainability. And it's certainly the enemy of zero waste and impacting climate change. Because once you burn your waste, you've got to go all the way back to square one, to extracting those raw materials all over again. So when you settle for incineration, you are settling for no mitigation of the linear economy. It's an absolute disaster. So incineration perpetuates the linear economy, but we perhaps can come back to that at the end. I want to stress here that waste, there's no magic machines. We've got to get that out of our minds. To get to zero waste, we need better organization, better education, and better industrial design. And in that, I've devised a whole system, the 10 steps to zero waste. Many of these steps are very, very familiar to people, I'm sure. Source separation, door-to-door collection, composting, recycling, reuse, repair, and so on. There's some steps towards the end which I think focus more on reducing the residuals, getting single-use plastics out of the system, and incorporating, getting academia involved with this zero waste research center. And even when we're getting up to 80% diversion, which we can still do more. So prior to the landfill, which we hope will be phased out over a number of years, we can have residual separation facilities. So this is the overall plan, basically concrete steps which are practical, locally, cost-effective, locally, and take us in a sustainable direction. Small steps, but a huge goal of sustainability.
I'll follow up with a question on that, Paul. So you've got these 10 steps for communities to make zero waste happen.
Yes.
Are communities taking that on, and does it look different in different locations?
Oh, absolutely. Definitely different in different locations. One of the most successful countries has been Italy. And look at the figures, because they're quite staggering in the context of what we've accepted for years. I remember when I got involved in 1985, someone shouted down the phone to me. They said, Paul, if you talk about more than 15% recycling, you're going to lose your credibility. Well, look at this. In Italy, we've got nearly 3,000 communities, over 70% diversion from landfill without using incineration. Over 1,000 municipalities are over 80%. Some are even over 90%. And in terms of provinces, out of 108 provinces in Italy, 40 are average over 65%. And one province, Treviso, there was a population of over 1 million. This is near Venice. 88% diversion from landfill, using some of these 10 steps to zero waste. So very practical. If you go to the United States, in San Francisco, large city, 850,000 population, very little space, as you probably know, but 80% diversion by 2011. So small communities in Italy, large cities in the United States, up to 80%. Now, in terms of what different countries are doing, different countries have brought different aspects of creativity to this issue. Brazil had over 1 million rag pickers, waste pickers, who were going to the landfill, men, women, and children, recyclables out of the landfill. Very dangerous, but they made money out of it. But they have formed into cooperatives, 1 million people into cooperatives. They've negotiated with the government. Now the waste pickers are allowed to go door to door to pick up recyclables. And with the little carts, some of them quite sophisticated, they take the materials to big sorting sheds. The material is got ready for market and sent to market. And these waste pickers are now involved in every level of getting from waste to industry. And then in another country, in the Philippines, which has been a leader in this, Freulen Great of Mother Earth Foundation, I'm pinching his presentation here. He's shown how you can work with the basic political entity, the smallest political jurisdiction in the Philippines is the barangay. And have demonstrated at the barangay level, here's one in Metro Manila, population 15,000, 3,000 households. This is what the side of the streets look like. Absolutely atrocious. You drive past this crap every day, and now look what it looks like. They're setting up these little materials recovery facilities here over the fence to the side of the road, and very exciting. And then they've expanded this to a city level, San Fernando City, population 300,000. When they started, they were able to get 55% diversion in 6 months. The current diversion rate is between 73 and 78%. They've got 180 MRFs, material recovery facilities, which are handling the recyclables, depots for the recyclables, and doing localized composting. They have these in every school and every subdivision, and they've created 100 green jobs. This is now, they've taken the waste pickers, the rag pickers, and put them into these jobs. They're getting more money, they're making more money, and of course, they're saving a lot of money for the community. And I was able to visit, Indonesia is copying the Philippines model, and I was taken to there, the equivalent of a barangay, extremely colorful, not much space, narrow walkways, but you saw the people, the waste pickers picking up the recyclables door to door, little containers, bringing the recyclables to these cages, the organics to the composting facility, very little odor, and producing plants, etc. This is the vice mayor of Bandung. He was very excited by what he said. He was going to make sure that every jurisdiction in Bandung, 1 million people, would do the same thing. So very, very positive. And then still in Bandung, they showed me community composting. This is Yobel, one of the activists there, taking me to a little local park where they've got all kinds of small composting operations going for leaves and food and different systems. And the local people bring their recyclables and compostables to this park, and they share in the compost, and they can grow their own food in the park. So that's very exciting. In Malaysia, again, different color. In Malaysia, they're really going to town and finding different technologies for handling organic waste, particularly in the cities rather than the countryside. Everybody knows you can compost in the countryside, but what can you do in the city? There's 150 tons of organic waste in this shed. This is vermiculture. Worms are converting this with no odor whatsoever. So you could do this in a city. Even more exciting was this plant in an industrial area outside Kuala Lumpur, and they are using black soldier fly larvae. Here they are, the larvae. And on an industrial scale, they're taking all the organic waste, the clean organic waste, which is delivered to them, and converting this into two things, compost and larvae. And the larvae is a rich source of protein, and they're using it for chicken feed and fish farms. So this is very exciting. You could do this in any city, just need a big building. In San Francisco, they've got another model, which I think is exciting. Here you see the recycling operation, the separation. The company there, which owns the contract for collecting the organics and collecting the recyclables and collecting the residuals, they own the recycling facility and they own the composting facility, but they don't own the landfill. So they've got no incentive to make money out of waste. They don't make money by sending it to the landfill, but they can make money by saving resources, by recycling and composting. So they are what you would call the first resource management company. They're not a waste management company. They are managing resources. And to add to the positive aspect of this. The company is owned by these workers. There's a lot of competition to become a worker in this facility. The working conditions are good, and they share in the whole dividends of the operation. So I think this is an exciting model for the whole world. What we also see in some of the northern countries, which we see less of in the south, is reuse and repair operations, which I think can be developed into community centers. Let me stress right away that reusable items are a small fraction of the total. Only 2% of Los Angeles discarded material is reusable, but it's worth a whacking over a third of the total value. And that translates into jobs. This has been going for 30 years, urban ore in Berkeley. It grosses $3 million a year, 37 full-time, well-paid jobs, recovering everything under the sun. This is like a second-hand shopping mall. You can buy anything. Building materials are particularly valuable, doors here. And there's another one over in Vermont where they not only recover the materials, but they're training people. They're taking unemployed people off the street, train them to repair large appliances, electrical goods, computers, and then help them to get a job. And they're also linked to deconstruction, more jobs, and they're using some of the materials to make furniture, more jobs, and selling the furniture, more jobs, 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 jobs. And the rest of the steps, step 6, is a very exciting development, very exciting indeed, is the Zero Waste Research Center, which we now have models for. In Italy, I've already been through this. In Italy, they set up they have a Zero Waste Research Center in 2007. This is Rossano Ercolini, he's a school teacher. And one of the things they did was to launch a Zero Waste Research Center in 2010. And here you see Rossano and myself, in this case, looking through the residual fraction. They studied the residual fraction. But my message is we need to involve local universities. We need those professors going downtown and helping the community examine the residual fraction, identify non-reusable objects, recommend better industrial designs, and share with everybody all the good things which are happening around the world in improving bad design and getting the single-use plastics out of the system. New Zealand has a Zero Waste Academy at Massey University. So I think that's exciting, but I hope that they will at least have an office downtown. We need the community and academia working together for this zero waste.
Hey, Paul, can I ask you a follow-up question there? You mentioned single-use plastic, and you're showing how much impressive progress on zero waste is happening around the world, and including in Asia. I was wondering if plastic pollution of the ocean, which is something that Vietnam as a coastal nation is really concerned about, is that motivating some of this progress on zero waste?
I'm so glad you've mentioned that, because it's forced me to introduce a different step into my whole 10 steps. We'll see it again in a moment. But that step is banning single-use plastics. And you're absolutely correct. The damage that plastics are doing to the oceans is galvanizing activists and scientists around the world to do something about this. And it's really sharpened the tip of the need for better industrial design. It's absolutely the classic case. And it's almost as if the world is saying, oh, you're talking about better industrial design. Well, here's the evidence of the worst industrial design. It's these throwaway plastics. You must do something about this. And whilst you're at it, why don't you design other things better? So here are some of the things which are going on around the world. And then let's look at some of the things which the world is doing to ban single-use plastics. So Ontario, Canada, for over 60 years has been reusing beer bottles, glass beer bottles, and each one goes around about 18 times. There's stores in Italy which allow you to refill your own bottles: shampoo, detergents, olive oil, milk, water, beer, wine, my favorite. And then in Indonesia, one of the local activist groups, this is Yo Bell's group, showing to people these these dispensing systems where you can take a liter of shampoo or a liter of detergents, either generic brands or brand names. Each of those liters keeps 1,000 disposable sachets out of the sea. Each one of those. Now, an individual in Indonesia cannot afford that, but a community can. So you can see how these creative solutions at the community level can really be beneficial both to the planet and to the individual. In Italy, they're getting plastics out of school cafeteria. This is Rossano's primary school. No plastics, glass, ceramics, stainless steel, and using tap water, not bottled water. Replacing disposable diapers with reusable diapers. Here we are. 14% of the residual fraction are disposable diapers. And that's costing a lot of money to parents, but if they go to reusable diapers, they will save nearly $1,000 per baby. Aha! Here we have step 8. This is new for me. This is new in the last year in introducing ban single-use plastics, and it's happening all over the world. And this is the reason the albatross, they're finding baby albatrosses where their mothers have fed them plastic bottle tops and orange plastics, which they've scavenged from across the Pacific. It's tragic, it's awful, it's sick. But India is banning literally all disposable plastics in Delhi. Costa Rica has banned styrofoam. Jakarta has just announced a ban of plastic bags. China is moving to phase out single-use plastics. Bali has banned plastic bags, plastic straws, and styrofoam. Cape Town pledges to phase out single-use plastics. Every day another country is coming in, and this is all very exciting.
Yeah, Vietnam has pledged, the Prime Minister has pledged to ban single-use plastics by 2025.
This is excellent. I mean, we need everybody. We need government. We need good leadership at the government level. We need good leadership at the university level. We need good leadership in the activist level, good leadership in the local level. And here's another creative idea. Believe it or not, this step in Italy has reduced the residual fraction by 15%. It's called the pay-as-you-throw system. So in this system, if you had a 3-container system, the compostables are free, the residuals are free, the recyclables are free, the residuals, the more you make, the more you pay. I like to put it this way, the less you make, the more you save. So in Seattle, you can choose the container for the residual fraction. The larger you choose, the more you pay each month. So it's up to you. Choose the smaller one and save money. In Italy, they have a chip in the bag for the residuals. You don't have to put it out every week. They collect it every week, but you don't have to put it out every week. If you don't put it out for 2 weeks, you save money. 3 weeks, you save more money. 4 weeks, you save more money. So creativity. Now, all of that, all those steps I've talked about can get you to 80% reduction. So the next question is, how do you go beyond 80%? And that's where Nova Scotia in Canada has taken the lead. They have built in front of their landfills residual separation facilities, literally in front of the landfill. You see the landfill in the center there. You see the green circle is the residual separation facility. Notice the road does not go to the landfill. It only goes to the residual separation facility. There's an aerial view, and in there they pull out more recyclables, more toxics. They stabilize the dirty organic fraction above ground, either with composting or with anaerobic digestion. And you'll eventually, of course, you're left with step 10, which is the residual landfill for the stabilized organics and the material that you can't currently recycle. But if we go through those 10 steps, we can continue to reduce what goes into this landfill. And so by 2030 or thereabouts, hopefully there's very little going in. So that's the message I'm taking to different countries, and I hope to share it in Vietnam, and I hope to learn something. It's a two-way process, Nicole. Every time I go to a country, I share what I know and pass on what I've learned from other countries, and nearly every time I find something creative, something different going on in the host country. And so I'm looking forward to, never been to Vietnam before, I'm looking forward to it immensely, and hopefully that will be in November.
All right, fingers crossed, Paul. Thank you so much for sharing the 10 steps of zero waste on this 50th anniversary of Earth Day.
And don't forget the big obstacle to all this, incineration. And the only good thing about incineration, it's good for lazy politicians, and even corrupt ones even better. So if your politicians are corrupt or they're lazy, watch out, you're going to get incineration. For them, it's a quick fix. For them, it makes the plastics disappear, etc., 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 etc. But if you look below the surface and to the details, it's a horror show. Incineration is a horror show. And at the very, very least, I can say it's going in the opposite direction to sustainability. It's the opposite direction to the circular economy.
All right. You've heard from Paul Connett, 10 steps of zero waste and no incineration. Thank you so much, Paul.
Thank you very much indeed. Why don't we come back and just bye-bye, everybody.